The lighthouse at the edge of the frozen sea. Welcome. Close your eyes. Let your body grow heavy and still. Take one slow breath in and let it go. Tonight, the world outside does not exist. There is only this, the dark, the quiet, and somewhere far away, the slow turning of a light over a frozen sea. Listen. This is the story of the lighthouse at the edge of the frozen sea. Chapter 1. The Keeper. At the very edge of the world, where the land stops pretending it has anywhere left to go, there is a lighthouse. It is not a tall lighthouse, not the grand, dramatic kind that stands like an exclamation point against the sky. It is modest, round and white, and worn smooth by decades of wind. Its paint the color of old cream, its windows thick and slightly warped from years of cold. It leans, just barely, just enough to notice, toward the sea. The way old things sometimes lean toward what they have spent their lives facing. The sea in front of it is frozen. Not always. There are weeks in late summer when the ice pulls back and the dark water shows itself, cold and vast and very old. But for most of the year, as far as the eye can reach and further, there is only ice, white and blue and silver, cracked in places into great tilted slabs, smooth in others like a floor polished by wind, and in the low winter light, extraordinary, lit from within somehow, as though the ice itself were a kind of lamp. The lighthouse stands at the edge of all this and turns its light around and around, slow and steady, the way hearts beat, the way the earth turns, with the particular faithfulness of things that have been doing what they do for so long that stopping has become unthinkable. And in the lighthouse, there is a keeper. His name is Edmund. He is old. He has been old for some time. The kind of old that has stopped being a number and become instead a quality, a weatheredness, a having been through things that sits in the lines of his face and the deliberateness of his movements and the particular quality of his silence. His hair is white. His hands are large and careful, the hands of someone who has spent a lifetime tending things that matter. His eyes are the color of the sea in summer, that deep northern blue that is almost gray, and they are very calm. The way the eyes of people who have lived long with vast and quiet things tend to become calm. He has kept this lighthouse for 41 years. He came when he was young, not meaning to stay, and then stayed, the way certain places claim certain people. Quietly, without drama, simply by being exactly what that person needed, without either of them knowing it at first. He lives alone. He does not find this lonely. He finds it complete. Chapter 2. The Routine. Edmund's days had a shape to them, the way all good lives develop shape, not through rigid planning, but through the slow accumulation of chosen repetitions, each one becoming, over time, a a kind of ceremony. He woke before light. In winter, this meant waking into darkness so complete it felt almost solid. He would lie for a moment in the warmth of his narrow bed, listening. The wind was always there. Sometimes a whisper, sometimes a conversation, sometimes a roar that made the lighthouse walls hum like a struck bell. He had learned to read the wind the way some people read faces, knowing its moods, its intentions, what kind of day it was building toward. Then he would rise. He made tea first, always, in the same heavy pot he had used for 30 years. Chipped at the handle now, but he had never considered replacing it. Some things earn their place through loyalty alone. He would stand at the kitchen window with his cup and look out at the ice. The ice was never the same twice. This had surprised him at first. He had expected monotony, had prepared himself for it. But the ice was endlessly various. The light fell differently each morning. The cracks shifted overnight. New pressure ridges appeared. Old ones subsided. The colors moved through a range he had spent years finding words for, and mostly failed. There was a blue the ice went in the hour before sunrise that he had never successfully described to anyone. A blue that was not quite any blue he knew the name of. A blue that felt less like a color and more like a feeling. He watched it every morning. He never got tired of it. After tea, he would check the light. Though, after 41 years, the checking was more ritual than necessity. He knew the light the way he knew his own hands, knew the sound of it turning, knew the particular quality of its beam sweeping across the ice in the deep of winter nights. He would climb the stairs slowly, his knees having developed their own quiet opinions about stairs over the years, and stand in the lamp room and look out in every direction. North, the ice going on forever into the white. East, the distant suggestion of land, hills just visible on clear days like sleeping animals under snow. South, the single road that came occasionally to life when the supply boat made its twice-yearly visit. West, nothing. Only sea and sky and the line between them. He would stand there for a while, just looking, and then he would go back downstairs and make breakfast and begin his day. It was a good life. He had known this for a long time, but he knew it more clearly with every passing year. The way certain truths become clearer with age rather than murkier. The way the ice became more various to him the longer he looked at it, not less. Chapter 3. The winter the girl arrived. It was the deepest part of winter, the time Edmund thought of as the blue months, when the sun barely cleared the horizon even at noon, and the light was always low and sideways and golden. When the ice was at its most extraordinary, and the wind had settled into its long, sustained cold that was less a weather event and more a permanent condition of the world. He was not expecting anyone. The supply boat had come in autumn, left him stocked for the season, and would not return until the ice broke in spring. He had food enough, fuel enough, books enough. He was entirely prepared to be alone until May. Then, one morning, he looked out the kitchen window and saw a figure on the ice. He stood very still for a moment. In 41 years, he had seen many things on the ice. Seals, occasionally a polar bear at a great distance. Once, a whale frozen mid-surface, a vast gray shape that had taken him 3 days to identify. But he had never seen a person. The figure was small and moving toward the lighthouse. He put on his coat and his boots and went out. The cold hit him the way it always did, not gradually, but all at once, a full-body recognition. Here it is, the real temperature of things, the baseline beneath all the warmth we build and tend and carry. Heat walked out onto the ice to meet her. She was perhaps 10 years old, perhaps a little older or younger. It was difficult to tell beneath the layers of coat and scarf and hat she wore, all of which were slightly too large for her, as though borrowed from someone bigger. She was carrying a small bag and walking with the careful deliberateness of someone who has been walking for a long time and has decided that stopping is not an option. When she saw him, she stopped. They looked at each other across the ice. "Hello," said Edmund. "Hello," said the girl. Her voice was steady, which surprised him. He would have expected fear or relief or both, but her voice was simply present. "Are you all right?" he asked. She considered this with what seemed like genuine seriousness. "I'm very cold," she said, "and I haven't eaten since yesterday morning, but otherwise I think I'm all right." Edmund looked at her for a moment. "Come inside then," he said, and she did. Chapter 4. Petra. Her name was Petra. She told him this while eating the soup he made, rapidly, with the focused attention of someone reintroducing themselves to the concept of warmth. She was 11, she said, nearly 12. She had come from the village, which was the small settlement 40 miles south along the coast. She had walked for 2 days on the ice. Edmund did not ask why, not yet. He asked instead whether she was warming up, whether the soup was enough, whether she needed more blankets. He asked the practical things, because those were the things that could be answered immediately and answered well. Later, when the color had come back into her face and she was sitting wrapped in 2 of his heaviest blankets with a second bowl of soup and a cup of tea, he simply waited. He was good at waiting. "My grandmother died," she said finally, "in November." "I'm sorry," said Edmund. "She was the one who told me about this place," Petra said. "She said there was an old man at the lighthouse who knew things. She said if I ever needed to understand something I couldn't understand on my own, I should come here." Edmund looked at her. "What is it you need to understand?" he asked. Petra looked at her soup. "Everything keeps changing," she said. "Since she died, everything is different. And everyone acts like it should be fine now, and it isn't fine. And I don't understand how to make it fine again." She said this very carefully, the way children say things they have been thinking about for a long time and are finally saying aloud. Edmund was quiet for a moment. The wind moved around the lighthouse, a low, sustained sound, companionable rather than threatening. "I don't know that I can explain it," he said finally. "But I might be able to show you some things, if you'd like to stay for a while." Petra looked at him, those serious eyes evaluating. "Okay," she said. And that was how it began. Chapter 5. What the Ice Teaches. The next morning, Edmund took her out onto the ice. She had slept deeply and long, the sleep of someone who has been very cold and is now very warm, and the body has decided to take full advantage. He had let her sleep until she woke on her own, which was late morning, and then fed her breakfast and dressed her in spare cold weather gear from the supply closet, things left by previous visitors over the years, none of it fitting perfectly, but all of it warm. The cold received them as it always did, completely, without compromise. Petra gasped slightly at the first breath. "You get used to it," Edmund said. Or, rather, you stop being surprised by it, which is not quite the same thing. They walked out from the lighthouse, Edmund setting a slow pace, watching where he put his feet with the automatic care of long practice. He stopped perhaps 100 yards out and crouched down and gestured for Petra to do the same. "Look at this," he said. He was pointing at the ice beneath them, at a particular spot where the surface was clear enough to see into, and within it, suspended, a bubble of air, perfectly round, caught in the moment of freezing. "It's been there since October," Edmund said. "That exact bubble, in that exact position. It was moving upward when the freeze caught it. It will start moving again when the thaw comes. In spring, it will reach the surface and release, and whatever air is in it, air from October, will mix with the spring air." Petra looked at it. "It's waiting," she said. "Yes," said Edmund. "The ice is full of things waiting. Nothing is lost here, only paused." They stood up and walked further. He showed her other things. A feather frozen into the surface, still perfect, every barb intact. A crack that ran for 50 yards and then simply stopped, as though whatever force had made it had run out of intention. A place where two pressure ridges had met and pushed up a small ridge of tilted slabs, like the ruins of a tiny city. "The ice moves," Edmund said, "even when it looks perfectly still. There are forces working in it all the time, expanding, contracting, pushing against itself. It looks permanent, but it is always in process." Petra walked beside him, looking at everything. "My grandmother looked permanent," she said, quietly, not accusingly, simply observing. "Yes," said Edmund, "the things we love most often do." They walked for a while in silence. The low winter sun found the ice and set it briefly golden. "But she's still there," Petra said. "Isn't she? Like the bubble, like the feather, just paused." Edmund looked at her. "I think," he said carefully, "that the people we love leave things in us, things that don't pause, things that keep moving even after they have gone. The bubble pauses, but what they put in us keeps going." Petra thought about this for a long time. Then she nodded, slowly, and they walked back toward the warm light of the lighthouse. Chapter 6. The Light. That evening, Edmund let her climb to the lamp room. He went first, slowly, and she followed. And when they emerged into the glass-walled space at the top, she went immediately to the window and pressed her face against it. Below, the ice stretched in every direction. The sky had cleared, and the stars were beginning, not gradually the way they come in softer climates, but all at once, as though someone had simply switched them on, hard and brilliant and close. The light turned beside them, its mechanism a quiet, reliable clockwork. Tick and sweep, tick and sweep. "How long has it been turning?" Petra asked. "This mechanism, about 60 years, Edmund said. But there has been a light here for 140. Different lamps, different mechanisms, but always turning." "Why?" she asked. It was a genuine question, the kind children ask when they actually want to know, not the kind that is really something else. Edmund thought about it. "Because ships need to know where the danger is," he said. "The rocks under the ice, the shallows, the places where the sea will take you if you're not careful. The light says, here is where the world gets complicated. Here is where you need to be careful. Here is where I am, so you can know where you are." Petra watched the light sweep over the ice. "Does it work?" she asked. "Do ships actually see it?" "Sometimes," Edmund said. "Not as many ships as there used to be. The routes have changed. But sometimes, yes. A ship will come through the passage in summer, and I'll see it change course, just slightly, because of the light. And I know it worked." "What if no ships come for a long time?" she asked. "Does the light still matter?" Edmund looked at her. "The light turns regardless," he said. "Not because a ship is definitely coming, but because a ship might come. And if it does, the light needs to be there." Petra turned from the window and looked at the mechanism, the slow, faithful turning. "I want to be like that," she said, quietly, almost to herself. "Like what?" Edmund asked. "Turning," she said. "Even when no one is watching. Even when I don't know if it matters. Just turning." Edmund was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Your grandmother would have liked that." Petra looked at him. "Did you know her?" "No," he said. "But I know you, a little. And what I know of you tells me what she must have been like." Petra turned back to the window. The stars were very bright. The light swept on. Chapter 7. The Storm. 3 days after Petra arrived, the storm came. Edmund had felt it building, had read it in the wind the day before, in the particular quality of the cold, the way the horizon to the north had thickened. He had told Petra they would stay inside tomorrow, and she had accepted this without question, already learning the rhythm of the place, learning that here the weather was not an inconvenience to be worked around, but a condition to be respected. The storm arrived in the early morning. Petra woke to a sound she had never heard before, a sustained roar that was not quite wind, and not quite water, and not quite the sound of anything she had a name for. She lay still for a moment, feeling the lighthouse walls vibrate slightly, feeling the whole structure lean and right itself and lean again, and felt, surprisingly, not afraid. She got up and went to the window. She could see nothing, the world outside had become entirely white. Not the white of snow or ice, but the white of motion. Everything moving so fast, it became undifferentiated. A blizzard so dense, it was almost a solid thing. Edmund was already in the kitchen, making tea, calm as always. "Is this normal?" Petra asked. "For here, yes," he said. "Perhaps twice a winter, sometimes 3 times. This one feels like it will last a day, maybe 2. He poured her tea and they sat at the table. "Are we safe?" she asked. "Entirely," he said. "This lighthouse has stood through 140 years of storms. It knows what it's doing." She smiled at that, the idea of a building knowing what it was doing. "What do we do?" she asked. "We wait," he said. "We make sure the light keeps turning. We read, we talk, we eat, we sleep. We let the storm do what it needs to do, and we trust that it will end." So that is what they did. Edmund read, a thick book with a cracked spine that he handled with the ease of something read many times before. Petra drew in a small notebook she had in her bag. Careful, detailed drawings of the lighthouse interior, the lamp mechanism, Edmund's hands holding his cup. Occasionally, Edmund would climb to the lamp room to check on the light. Petra would sometimes go with him, to stand in the howling glass-walled space and watch the storm from inside it, which was extraordinary. Being at the center of something vast and violent, and being entirely untouched by it. In the afternoon, Edmund told her about other storms he had known. He told them the way he told everything, slowly, without embellishment, letting the facts carry the weight. A storm in his 3rd year that had lasted 4 days and left the ice entirely rearranged. A storm in his 20th year, when the light had flickered and he had spent 6 hours in the lamp room making sure it didn't go out. A storm that had brought a seal onto the very doorstep of the lighthouse, huddled there for 2 days before the weather cleared and it returned to the ice. Petra listened, drawing as she listened. "You love it here," she said, not as a question. "Yes," he said, "even the hard parts." "Especially the hard parts," he said. "The hard parts are when you find out what you're made of, and if you're lucky, you find out you're made of something decent." Petra thought about this. "I didn't feel like I was made of something decent," she said. "After my grandmother died, I felt like I was made of nothing, like there was a hole where the decent part used to be." Edmund set down his book. "That hole," he said carefully, "is the shape of her. It is the exact size and shape of what she was to you. And that means it is also proof of what she was. Something that leaves a hole that size was something very large and very real and very good." Petra looked at her drawing. "The hole doesn't go away?" she asked. "No," said Edmund honestly, "but you grow around it, the way the ice grows around the things caught in it. The hole stays, but you become larger than it, and eventually you carry it the way the ice carries the feather, as part of yourself, as something preserved." The storm roared outside. The light turned. Petra drew. And in the drawing, when she looked at it later, she had drawn not the lamp room or the mechanism or Edmund's hands. She had drawn the whole, and around it, very carefully, she had drawn everything that grew around it. Chapter 8. The Things Edmund Kept. On the fourth day, when the storm had passed and left the world rearranged and glittering, Petra found the shelves. They were in the room Edmund called the study, which was more accurately a room where things had accumulated over 41 years without anyone deciding to stop them. Books, of course, everywhere, stacked and shelved and piled in ways that had developed their own logic over time. But also other things. Stones, dozens of them, each one set carefully on whatever surface was available, each one labeled in Edmund's small handwriting with a tiny piece of paper. She picked one up, a smooth gray oval with a faint pink vein running through it, and read the label. Found on the ice, 14th February, year 12, the morning the aurora came this far south. She set it down carefully and picked up another, darker, almost black, with a surface like cracked glass. Found at the base of the Lighthouse steps, year 23, the day I decided to stay permanently. She moved along the shelf. Each stone had a story, a date, a moment, sometimes just a feeling. One label simply said, "The best morning I can remember." No explanation, no date, just that. "You collect them," she said when Edmund appeared in the doorway. "I keep them," he said. There was a slight distinction in his voice between the two words. "What's the difference?" she asked. He came and stood beside her, looking at the stones. "Collecting is about having," he said. "Keeping is about remembering. I don't want the stones. I want what they point to. The stone is just a knot in a piece of string to keep me from losing the thread." Petra looked at the shelves. "There are so many threads," she said. 41 years, he said. "It adds up." She picked up another stone, small, white, almost perfectly round. "The day a girl walked out of the ice," the label said, and then a date, which was 5 days ago. Petra looked at it for a long time. Then she set it down very carefully, exactly where she had found it. "I haven't done anything worth keeping yet," she said. Edmund looked at her. "You walked 40 miles on frozen ice," he said. "Alone, in winter, because you needed to understand something and you decided to go find out. That is worth keeping." He reached into his pocket and produced a small, smooth stone, pale gray, unremarkable, and set it on the shelf in front of her. "That one is yours," he said, "for whenever you find what you came here to find." Petra looked at the stone. Then she picked up the small notebook from the table and her pencil, and she wrote on a piece of paper torn from the back. She folded it small and tucked it under the stone. Edmund did not ask what it said. He didn't need to. Chapter 9. The Aurora. It came on the 6th night. Edmund woke her which he had never done before, and she came awake immediately. Something about his stillness telling her that whatever had happened required presence, required now. She followed him up the stairs, through the lamp room, and up the final ladder to the very top of the lighthouse, a small platform she had not been on before, open to the sky, protected only by a low railing. The cold hit her like a wall, but she forgot it immediately, because the sky was alive. Sheets of light moved across it, green and white and the palest imaginable violet. Not static the way stars were static, but moving, flowing, the way curtains move in a gentle wind, the way water moves over a smooth riverbed, with a fluidity that seemed impossible for light, which she had always thought of as instant, as traveling too fast to be seen in motion. But this light moved slowly enough to watch. She stood at the railing with her hands gripping it and her face tilted up, and felt something she had no word for, something that was too large for words, something that required the whole body to hold. Edmund stood beside her, looking up. "Does it happen often?" she whispered. She whispered without knowing why. It simply seemed like the appropriate volume. "Perhaps 4 or 5 times a winter," he said, also quietly. "Sometimes more. I have never gotten used to it." "What is it?" she asked, though she knew the scientific answer, had been taught it. She meant something else. Edmund understood what she meant. "I think," he said slowly, "it is the universe reminding us of its scale, not to make us feel small, but to make us feel part of something very large, something that was here long before us and will be here long after. Something we get to witness for a while, if we are paying attention." The lights moved, green deepening, violet spreading, a thread of gold appearing and then dissolving. "My grandmother used to say that wonder was the most important thing," Petra said. "That if you could still be surprised by the world, you were still alive in the deepest sense." "She was right," Edmund said. "I haven't felt it since she died," Petra said. "Wonder. I felt sad, and I felt angry, and I felt sort of hollow, but not wonder." "How do you feel right now?" Edmund asked. Petra looked at the sky. The lights moved and shifted, and the stars behind them burned cold and clear. "Like the world is bigger than I remembered," she said. Edmund nodded. "Good," he said, very softly. "Hold on to that." They stood there for a long time. The aurora moved above them, patient and vast, and entirely indifferent to their smallness, and entirely beautiful because of it. And something in Petra, something that had been very tightly held since November, began, slowly, carefully, to loosen. Chapter 10. Before she left. She stayed for 11 days. On the 8th day, the weather cleared completely, and Edmund radioed the village, where her parents had apparently been in a controlled panic since her disappearance, and where a rescue party had been organized and then called off when the storm made travel impossible. and then reorganized again. He spoke to her father briefly, a calm, measured conversation in which he explained that Petra was safe and warm and well, and that she would be ready to return in a few days. Her father's voice on the radio was thick with feelings he was not saying, and Edmund said only, "She is all right," and let the words carry whatever they needed to carry. He did not tell Petra about the call immediately. He waited until the evening, when they were sitting after dinner in the comfortable way they had developed, each in their own chair, the fire going, the wind gentle outside. "Your parents are coming in 2 days," he said. Petra was quiet for a moment. "Okay," she said. Another moment. "I'm not ready," she said. "I don't mean I won't go. I mean, I don't feel finished yet." "Tell me what feels unfinished," Edmund said. She thought about it. "I came here because I couldn't understand how to keep going when something that felt permanent turned out not to be," she said. "And I think I understand it better now. But understanding it and being able to do it are different things." "Yes," said Edmund. "They are." "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you keep turning the light when you don't know if anyone is coming? How do you keep going when things change and people leave and the ice rearranges itself overnight?" Edmund looked at the fire for a long moment. "I pay attention," he said. "Every morning I look at the ice and it is different from yesterday. And I find that difference interesting rather than frightening. I collect the stones, I tend the light. I do the small, faithful things. And the small, faithful things add up. They become, after a while, a life, a real one, full of real things." He looked at her. "You are 11 years old," he said, "nearly 12. You have already walked 40 miles on frozen ice because something in you said, 'Go and find out.' That is not nothing. That is, in fact, quite a lot. The question is not whether you can keep going. You clearly can. The question is just whether you remember that you can when it gets hard again." Petra looked at him. "Will it get hard again?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Yes," he said, "of course. But you will also stand under more auroras. I promise you that." She smiled, slowly, the first real, full smile he had seen from her. "I'm going to come back," she said, "when I'm older, when I'm allowed to come on my own." "I'll be here," Edmund said. "What if you're not?" she asked, honestly, without cruelty, the way children ask the questions adults flinch from. Edmund considered this. "Then the light will still be turning," he said, "and whoever is keeping it will let you climb to the top and look at the ice, and that will be enough." Petra nodded. Then she went to the study shelf and picked up her stone, the pale grey one Edmund had set there for her, and unfolded the paper beneath it and read what she had written. She folded it again, carefully, and tucked it into her pocket. "Mr. for the collection?" Edmund asked. "For keeping," she said. Chapter 11. The morning she left. Her parents arrived in a snowcat, a large orange vehicle that came growling across the ice with a kind of cheerful determination that made Petra smile when she saw it from the lamp room. She watched it come for a while. Then she went downstairs and finished packing her small bag, which was not very different from how she had arrived. A few things folded more neatly, the notebook fuller, the stone in her pocket. Edmund made breakfast, large and unhurried, and they ate without talking much. The comfortable silence of people who have said what they needed to say. When the snowcat stopped outside, Petra stood up, and Edmund stood up, and they looked at each other across the small kitchen. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome," he said. They were both quiet for a moment. "She was right," Petra said. "My grandmother, she said you knew things." "I know this place," Edmund said. "This place knows things. I've just been paying attention long enough to hear some of them." Petra put on her coat, her scarf, her hat. At the door, she turned. "The light," she said. "I understand it now. It's not for the ships that are coming. It's for all the ships that might come. It's for the possibility." Edmund looked at her. "Yes," he said, "exactly that." She opened the door and the cold came in, bright and clean and entirely itself. She walked to the snowcat and her parents got out, and there was a brief, complicated moment of embracing and talking and the kind of emotional negotiation that families do when fear becomes relief, becomes something more ordinary. Edmund watched from the doorway. Before she got in the vehicle, Petra turned and looked at him one more time. She raised her hand. He raised his. And she was gone. Edmund stood in the doorway for a while after the snowcat disappeared into the white. Then he went inside, put the kettle on, and climbed to the lamp room. The light was turning, around and around, slow and steady. He stood and watched the ice, vast and quiet and full of its frozen waiting things, and felt what he always felt here, what he had felt for 41 years in this place. Peace, deep and earned and real. The peace of someone who has found the thing they are for and done it faithfully. The peace of the light turning. The peace of the ice waiting for spring. The peace of everything in its own time being exactly as it should be. Closing. And the light kept turning through the rest of that winter, through the blue months and the dark mornings and the storms that rearranged the ice, through the slow return of the sun, the first hints of color in the sky as spring considered arriving, through the creak and groan of the ice beginning to move again, the bubble rising toward the surface, the feather loosening from its winter holding. Through all of it, the light turned. Edmund kept his days, his tea in the morning, his walk on the ice, his checking of the light, his stones on the shelf, each one a knot in a thread, each one pointing back to something real and good and worth keeping. In the spring, when the ice broke and the dark water showed itself again, he found a new stone at the water's edge, smooth and pale and almost perfectly round. He turned it in his hands for a while, feeling its weight. He labeled it. The winter A girl walked out of the ice and understood something important, and set it on the shelf, where it joined the others. All the kept things, all the pointed threads, all the small, faithful evidence of a life lived with attention. And in the village 40 miles south, Petra grew. She grew the way people grow when they have been shown something true about themselves. Not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily, the way the ice grows in autumn, quietly and completely, and with great patience. She kept the stone in her pocket for a long time, until she found a better place for it, a shelf of her own, where she began to place the things worth keeping, small evidence of the real and the good. She came back to the lighthouse, as she had promised, when she was older, when she could come on her own. She climbed the stairs to the lamp room and stood in the glass-walled space and looked out at the ice. And the feeling she had was the feeling of returning to something that had always been hers, even before she knew it. The light turned beside her, around and around, patient and faithful and entirely itself. And now, here at the end of this story, here in the quiet dark where you are, I want to tell you something that Edmund would have said if he were here. You are the lighthouse. You have been turning your light for longer than you know, faithfully, even on the nights when no ships came, even in the storms, even in the blue months when the sun barely cleared the horizon and everything felt cold and still and permanent. You have been turning, and the things you have kept, the moments and the people and the feelings you have held and preserved and carried, they are on the shelves inside you, each one a thread, each one pointing back to something real. Nothing is lost, only paused. The bubble rises when the thaw comes. The feather loosens and lifts. And everything that has been waiting in its own time finds its way. So tonight, let your body be heavy and warm. Let your breathing slow. Let the cold outside be the cold outside, and let the warmth inside be yours. You have tended your light today. That is enough. That is more than enough. Sleep now. The light is turning. Everything is exactly as it should be. Good night.